Your Excellency, President Bola Ahmed of Nigeria, Senator Hope Uzodinma, Governor of Imo State, distinguished heads of state and government, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to skip all distinguished leaders' names because so many people have recognized them. Just to time sake, please excuse me, all the protocols are observed. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to join you today at the Imo State Economic Summit 2025 and deliver these remarks on unlocking Imo's economic potential, partnership, investment, and innovation. And it is my privilege to speak to all of you at such an important juncture as we strive to advance growth, expand climate action, achieve sustainable development, build peace, and empower women and global citizen leaders to forge a sustainable and prosperous future for all people and our planet. My gratitude goes to the Honorable Hope Uzodinma, Governor of Imo State, for his leadership and also inviting me to speak at the same time. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this is a time of great significance for taking climate action and accelerating achievement of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, through cooperation and partnership. Before entering the substance, I have the pleasure to talk to you about Ms. Amina Mohammed, a Nigerian diplomat and a politician who is serving now as UN Deputy Secretary General and number 2 person within the United Nations system. Initially, I'm not boasting myself, it was I who picked her up while serving as a Secretary General. And I'm very pleased to tell you that my decision was the right decision. And let us give a big applause. Thank you. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, actually, we are living in an unprecedented era of multiple crises and elevated uncertainty. Great power rivalry is intensifying, particularly between the United States and China, and the bloody wars in Ukraine and Gaza represent one of the most dangerous moments for global security in decades, with a profound humanitarian impact. At the same time, most serious and worrisome to humanity is that our planet Earth, is on fire, virtually, both literally and figuratively. So the climate crisis is deepening with the surging temperatures, burning wildfires, and raging floods. Global crises such as conflict, pandemics, and climate change have showed us how much we are interconnected. They also make it clear that we need global solutions in response, and such solutions must be rooted in partnership, global partnership, and inclusivity. Today, I'll speak to you about how we can advance in this era of global uncertainty and security. But we must, at the same time, all play our part in this process, particularly dynamic African leaders. I visited Nigeria several times before. My visit to Imo State today reminds me of enormous sufferings and difficulties that African people, particularly people in Imo State, should have overcome because of colonization and subsequent war, as the Korean people did. Surmounting is a painful and turbulent history. Africa today holds the keys to unlocking so many solutions to current global challenges that humanity and our planet are facing, including climate change and UN Sustainable Development Goals. And I have also tirelessly advocated for climate adaptation and resilience in Africa, including through my active participation and strong support at important events, including Africa Climate Summit. In this regard, while serving as a Secretary General, I have been repeatedly stating that without addressing the African challenges, we will never be able to declare that we are living in sustainable world. This commitment is still continuing. I'm speaking out as former Secretary General. Ladies and gentlemen, the climate crisis is here and now, so we must elevate action and political will to cut carbon emissions, enhance climate adaptation, and implement the Paris Climate Change Agreement adopted 10 years ago on December 12, 2015. The Paris Climate Change Agreement still provides us with our best hope to persevere over the dire climate threat to the Earth. The global response remains critical. We must resist the temptation to backpedal toward fossil fuels and instead accelerate the green transition. This is particularly important following the most recent COP30 UN climate conference held in Belém, Brazil, just recently, where regrettably, due to the lack of consensus, fossil fuel-related expressions were removed from the outcome document. We especially need enhanced initiative and effort for the spheres of climate mitigation, adaptation, and finance to implement the UN global goals, limit temperature rise, preserve biodiversity, and protect our planet. And every fraction of a degree matters greatly. However, when the United States left the Paris Climate Change Agreement in 2017 and later rejoined during the time of President Biden, however, President Trump had decided during his second term to withdraw from the Paris Climate Change Agreement. This is very regrettable. Ladies and gentlemen, the 10 hottest years of globally recorded temperature have all occurred over the last decades, and WMO, World Meteorological Organization, said that last year, 2024, was the first year to exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius, which means 1.55 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. Therefore, unless we act swiftly to cool the Earth, we will face a chain of crises that shall threaten lives and livelihoods across every continent and ocean. Scientists warn of rapid sea level rise, shrinking habitable land, those are not distant myths, but rather immediate realities. At the heart of such action, we must drastically slash the planet's carbon emissions on the road to net zero emission by 2050 and ensure a just transition for all. This will address energy shortages, improve human well-being, and catalyze cooperation, and Africa and its people, private sectors, and civil societies could and should play a very important, vital role. With this in mind, I believe that robust multilateral action underpinned by partnership, solidarity, and cooperation must steer our responses forward. It is critical that we strive to realize net zero targets, and to do so, we must turn existing international commitments into decisive action. In this regard, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to point out that support for the most vulnerable is falling short, and expanded conflict and trade volatilities are hindering progress. As such, I call the full operationalization of the Loss and Damage Fund for developing countries, and the COP30 Belém packages includes an expression to establish a dialogue practices on the Loss and Damage Fund. This means discussions including how we can scale up support will continue on the formal UN processes in the future. The fact is that low-income countries, including most of the African nations, have contributed the least to today's climate crisis, but they are being disproportionately impacted. I have found, according to statistics, 54 African states emit just 4% in global field, in global emission, just 4%, while China, one country, produces 22 or 24%, United States 12%, European Union 8%, 26 European countries, they are all industrialized countries, but produce only 8%. Now Africa, 54 member states, you emit just 4% all. Therefore, I think it is very much unfair when Africa, without emitting too much, then are suffering most seriously. Therefore, there should be a fund, technology support for African leaders. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, a just, prosperous, and equitable transition from fossil fuel to green energy is critical to avoid the worst of the climate impact and realize the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Indeed, accelerating the green transition is the most crucial way to combat climate change. Doing so can provide a viable pathway for sustainable development, including the eradication of poverty and hunger without further degradation to our ailing planet. But this is not incompatible with the economic growth. In fact, such efforts must go hand in hand so we can expand sustainability, inclusivity, and prosperity for all. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, now let me turn to the UN SDGs, which were adopted by 193 member states in New York on September 25, 2015. These SDGs, as well as the Paris Climate Change Agreement, were all adopted in the year of 2015. It was exactly 10 years ago. So United Nations has established historic milestone. The problem is that member states are not actively implementing these two very important visions adopted by the global leaders. The SDG provides humanity and our planet with the collaborative blueprint to ensure that the future we want. I am asking many people, what kind of a future do you want? What kind of future do you want to leave to your sons and daughters, succeeding generations? Therefore, not only leaders, political leaders, but civil society, business leaders, you have moral duties and political duties to make sure that our succeeding generations will live without any fear of climate change issues. Despite this, we must keep moving forward together and transformational SDG implementation. In this connection, the 2025 UN Sustainable Development Report calls for action in 6 priority areas. Number one, food systems. Number 2, energy access. Number 3, digital transformation. Number 4, education. 5, jobs, decent jobs. And number 6, social protection and climate and biodiversity. Sustainability and climate agenda are closely aligned with the future directions of Imo State's socio-economic development, as opportunities in energy diversification, artificial intelligence, renewables, ICT, and ESG, environment, social, and governance, will be plentiful alongside challenges. Indeed, we are currently undergoing an incredible global digital transformation, further expedited by the COVID-19 pandemic and AI, artificial intelligence advances, and Africa is no exception. Ladies and gentlemen, as a UN Secretary General, I devoted much of my time and energy to advancing the rights of women around the world and fighting for gender equality. From my very first day at the UN to my last, this was my guiding priority. I am urging political leaders, please give more opportunities, decent jobs, and participation in the government, in decision making. Women should be given equal opportunities. If not at this time, then thank you. Why don't you applaud for women's empowerment? Ladies and gentlemen, together with women and girls, active engagement and empowerment of youth is also critical to ensure the success of the global community. Consider the fact that young people and women comprise at least 75% of global population. Then it is only right that they should be given more opportunities, if not more, at least equal opportunities. So thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, let me speak about global citizens, global citizenship. This is an important concept that can serve as a unique tool to help solve some of our most pressing challenges and assist us in reaching our global goals. Global citizens are those who identify themselves not only as a member of the nation, but also as a member of the humanity of the world. The national boundaries are not important at this time. Practically, there are no national boundaries. You can travel all the places without any hindrance. During my time as a young boy, there were a lot of restrictions, but this means the women, girls, and men, they are all global citizens. You may be proud of being Nigerian or Korean, Americans, or some other countries, but this nationality does not mean much at this time. We are all global citizens. We are all together. So I hope the particular leaders, political leaders participating in this meeting would give much more to women and young people who will soon become our leaders of the society. And in order to establish long-term solutions, global solutions, we need inclusive and participatory action, including global citizens, especially those throughout Africa, as an essential ingredient to make good on the power of partnership. For these reasons, I have been trying my best to help create global citizenship as a driving vision for all people around the world. And I urge all of you, distinguished guests, to move forward in your lives, careers, and outlook as a global citizen. At the same time, global citizenship and the values it entails are essential for nurturing strong and empathetic leaders at all levels. Now, more than ever, we must light a bright new pathway to confront the great challenges we are facing today. As such, it is essential that we join together to elevate climate action, accelerate progress on the UN global goals, and cultivate global citizenship all around the world. And key stakeholders are absolutely indispensable for such collective global efforts. And also, we need to strengthen partnership. Without partnership, you cannot do anything. That's why number 17, the last goal of Sustainable Development Goals, is global partnership. When you are strengthening your global partnership, I think we can resolve all these issues. So, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I am asking everyone to pursue this long-term vision of global citizenship based on global partnership. Everyone has a moral responsibility to act wherever they may be, and anyone can lead with a purpose. But dynamic stakeholders operating locally are uniquely positioned to help elevate prosperity, boost sustainability, and lead our common future to new heights. In fact, global citizenship is perfectly aligned with the guiding missions of this year's summit to, I quote, transform Imo State into a competitive investment destinations, a hub of innovation and a model for sustainable development in Nigeria and across Africa, unquote. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude. Unfortunately, the challenges we are facing now are unprecedented. Therefore, our response must also be equally unprecedented. Please collaborate across borders and seas and generations and cultures and religions. This will boost sustainability and expand economic growth in an increasingly divisive world. We can and should create the future we want. This is a bright future that is anchored in prosperity, sustainability, and empowerment for all. But we must remember that current challenges are simply too enormous to be left in the hands of a few leaders. All of us have worked together in solidarity and partnership. Your role is more vital than ever as right holders. Excellencies, let us work together. There is not a single country, single individual, whether president, prime minister, or country-wise, United States, European Union. They are resourceful, very powerful, but there is not a single country, single individual in this world who can do it alone. We must join all our hands on the deck together. That's the hard lessons which I have learned while serving as a Secretary General of the United Nations. So, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I appeal to you, let us be global citizens. With the global citizenship, just transcend national borders and work to make this global earth and humanity prosperous and sustainable. That's your political responsibility. For me now, I have only moral responsibility. When political responsibility, moral responsibility combined, I think we can really achieve a better world for our succeeding generation. Thank you very much.